It is day 2 of confirmation hearings for Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson, President Biden's Supreme Court nominee, facing questions from members of the Senate Judiciary Committee. Let's get out to congressional correspondent Ketanji Brown, who's live on Capitol Hill with the very latest. Good afternoon, Ketanji.
Good afternoon, Bianca. We are continuing to hear questions from the committee, really questioning Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson's judicial philosophy. And this is really critical for Republicans to decide what type of a justice she would be and how she would rule. Here's how she's clarified her position.
I think that all of my record is important to some degree because I think it clearly demonstrates that I'm an independent jurist, that I am ruling in every case consistent with the methodology that I've described, that I'm impartial. I don't think that anyone can look at my record and say that it is pointing in one direction or another, that it is supporting one viewpoint or another.
Well, at one point, Republican Senator Lindsey Graham asked her if she was an activist judge. She responded no, but Graham further said that it concerned him that she was supported by so many progressive groups who may want to see the Supreme Court packed. She was asked about that as well. Take a listen.
Respectfully, Senator, other nominees to the Supreme Court have responded as I will, which is that it is a policy question for Congress. And I am particularly mindful of not speaking to policy issues because I am so committed to staying in my lane.
We're expecting these hearings to go late into the evening. Each of those 22 members, they have 30 minutes for the Q&A with Judge Jackson. We've already heard a lot on her advocacy for Guantanamo detainees, both as a federal public attorney and also working for a private firm as well. We've also heard those allegations that Republican Senator Josh Hawley brought up, that she is soft on crime, particularly when it comes to the sentencing guidelines for child pornography offenders. We're going to hear a lot more of that today, particularly digging more into her record, her written opinions, her lengthy written opinions, and that will continue late into the evening.
Yeah, a little lunch break right now and a long day ahead. Ketanji Brown, live on the Hill. Thanks, Ketanji. Appreciate it.
All right, let's get comfortable as we wait for the hearings to resume and welcome in constitutional law attorney and Newsmax contributor Jenna Ellis. She's also a former senior advisor and counsel to President Trump. Also with us, political analyst Mark Halperin. Jenna, Mark, great to have you both with us.
Great to see you, John.
Good
All right,
to be here, John. Thanks.
So lots of questions. I think overall Judge Brown Jackson is, well prepared. She seems highly qualified. She's answering the questions in the way that you think that she would. I want to focus specifically, though, on something she said, a question from Chuck Grassley, when he asked her if she believes the Second Amendment is a fundamental right. Here's that exchange.
There is precedent in the Supreme Court related to various rights that the court has recognized as fundamental. The court has some precedents about the standards for determining whether or not something is fundamental.
And later, Dianne Feinstein, the senator from California, asked Jackson if she believes that Roe v. Wade is settled as precedent. She didn't hesitate. She said it is settled law. So these are like the two litmus test issues, right, Jenna, for conservatives and liberals here. But I think it's very interesting when you look at her responses. One, which is in the Constitution, she kind of wavers on. The other, which has been settled by the Supreme Court, she sees as settled law. So, Jenna, how do you see this?
Yeah, well, I think that I'm most concerned about her judicial philosophy and answering that question about the Second Amendment, specifically pivoting right to the court's view and how the court has interpreted the Constitution rather than going back and saying this is a textual protection for all Americans in the Constitution. That's not a matter of policy. That is our supreme law of the land. And then to pivot and say that Roe versus Wade is settled law when you have the Dobbs case that was just argued in front of the Supreme Court just a few months ago that clearly has the potential, if not the probability, of severely undermining Roe versus Wade, I think shows that she is more of an activist than a textualist. And that's what needs to concern Americans here when we're looking at the true qualifications for a justice. I think she's very likable. I think she's very qualified in terms of just the constitutional metric. But the reason that the Senate is required to provide advice and consent is to get to the heart of whether or not she will take her own viewpoints or she will look at the Constitution and say, I may or may not agree with the Second Amendment, but it's my job to make sure that I am issuing rulings consistent with what our founders provided and those protections. So judicial philosophy absolutely is what's critical here. And I don't think that she has a conservative viewpoint, or not even just conservative. It's not Republican versus Democrat, but truly constitutional.
Right. Conservative, you mean by, strictly adhering to the Constitution. Mark, this is interesting when you look at this because, we have this traditional role of the Senate of advice and consent when it comes to Supreme Court nominees, but we've gotten so far away from that. These have really kind of become, kind of show trials, which we saw with Brett Kavanaugh. I wanted to get your take on how you think this is going in terms of, what these hearings should be and the media coverage of this one in particular.
John, it's a high-stakes drama, except the only thing it lacks is drama, because
Right.
she's going to be confirmed. She'll get either 50 votes or 51, maybe 52. It's important for the country to hear from her. This is the last chance for a co-equal branch to have their say before she gets this lifetime appointment, which, again, barring the unexpected, she'll get. In terms of the coverage, I've said this before, the press roots for Democratic nominees to the Supreme Court and roots against Republicans. I think really this is all theater, because we see some exceptions. We've seen people like David Souter, Republican nominees. It usually happens for some reason to the Republicans who don't
Always.
vote the way the president who picks them expects. But
Right.
I think she'll be like every other member of the current court. She'll be result oriented. She will vote the vast majority of the time with the liberals, and she'll make up a judicial philosophy to fit that result. And I'm not singling her out, because with the exception of one or two of the current justices, that's pretty much what they all do.
Yeah, the questions are pretty standard. They know how to answer them. Your point about the media is well taken, because, I was reading the headlines and Marsha Blackburn does this and Tom Cotton does that and Josh Hawley is evil because he asked this question. But Jenna, it's almost like projectionary how the media covers this. They think what they're going to see from Republicans is what we saw with Brett Kavanaugh from Democrats. And so they were like anticipating that type of hearing, but we're not getting that. And I don't expect we will.
Right, no, not at all. And I think that those questions from Republicans have been perfectly appropriate, because they're asking about her qualifications. They're not just attacking her character. They're not just attacking, a high school yearbook or whether or not she likes beer. I mean, those things that we all remember with the Kavanaugh confirmation hearings were so outside of the scope of even what was appropriate, so much that just couldn't be backed up at all. And yet now the left is saying we can't even, as Republicans, question her judicial philosophy just because she's a Black woman. And I am not at all an advocate for any kind of identity politics. If she was being discriminated against or prejudiced because she was Black or because she was a woman, that would also be wrong. She needs to be looked at for her qualifications, period. And it's very unfortunate that Joe Biden said, I'm going to nominate a Black woman, because that put identity politics front and center in these hearings.
Yeah, we heard Mazie Hirono talking about this, that this is not why this happened. And again, you look at her qualifications, she does seem qualified. I think it is unfortunate that has, been the kind of shadow that's cast over this. But, Mark, I think what you said is true as well. This is a rubber stamp, right? We're not witnessing a real serious examination here of this judge. This is, something we do, and it's kind of like, symbolic almost.
Their minds are open this much,
Right.
maybe this much.
Yes.
How much minds are? I mean, look, because of the nature of getting rid of the filibuster for Supreme Court nominees, because of the nature of the anger that both sides feel about how the other side has dealt with Supreme Court nominations, it's kind of remarkable that this is not very contentious. There are a lot of reasons for that. We should say she, if confirmed, would be a liberal replacing a liberal. That's part of why Republicans are not going rough here.
Yeah.
So let's not assume Republicans have laid down their arms forever. But I'll make the point again: the tender mercies that the liberals in the press are feeling about some of the accusations or lines of questioning, those are nothing compared to what some Republican nominees have been subjected to.
So true.
And it's so outrageous, the double standard, and Democrats benefit from that, and they'll get a nominee. But Republicans have played hardball on the court as well. Senator McConnell first and foremost, and that's part of the story of the predicate of what's led to this strange bit of relative peace.
Well, almost as predictable as her eventual ascension to the Supreme Court is the disappointment from liberals when she doesn't come down exactly on some issue like they had hoped. That's probably going to happen as well. Great to see you both, Jenna and Mark. Thanks for the time.
Great to see you too, John.
Thank you. Good to see you both.